Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over chase cards for a lot of the sets from Scarlet and Violet era and just taking a look at their pop reports. And I think there's an interesting conclusion that kind of comes out from looking at a bunch of different chase cards. There was a trend I was noticing that I think might kind of indicate that right now is the time to buy some older Scarlet and Violet sets. Not only, with the fact that they are less likely to get reprints and also less likely to get significant reprints compared to newer sets, but also because their populations are interesting for one key factor. Now, first, let's start with some of the more newer stuff. So like Team Rocket's Mewtwo here. This is kind of what you would expect for a chase card with decent printing. 2 times the amount of PSA 10s to PSA 9s. A lot of moderns kind of have this trend, but not all of them do, as we'll see. But next we have Greninja EX. Again, more PSA 10s than PSA 9s. This is generally the average. Like in Sword and Shield as well, you see this a lot. The PSA 10s are the most populated stuff. I think they had decent printing quality for the special illustration rares, or maybe, PSA just was more lenient then, but who knows. Mew X, now this is where the table starts to turn slightly. Mew EX is a little bit of a harder card to grade. As you can see, there's 3,000 more 9s and 10s. Umbreon EX from Terastal, not the easiest to grade as well. Same kind of difference here. I think the PSA 10 population is definitely going to come up. I would not be buying in at 2,700. That's a lot of money. Charizard EX, now this is much easier to pull, but not the easiest to grade. Now 20k population is a lot, so I'm surprised that this price is all the way up here. I mean, it just shows you how popular the card is, how popular Charizard is as a Pokemon, and just how much people like 151 in general. I think this price is going to actually continue to go up. Population doesn't matter, dude. If the Gray Felt Hat Pikachu can go to places, like, I kind of believe in this Charizard even more than that. So I think this is not a horrible pickup, but here's some more underrated picks. This Altaria EX, I think it's around like 100, 120. I found this at local card shows for 100, and I was really thinking of picking it up. I didn't though, but maybe I'll look for some copies that are gradable. We'll see. I kind of like this card. I like Altaria. Mega Altaria will be coming out, in the next, I'm sure they'll do some kind of Mega Altaria card, and so maybe this one could see some action then, but who knows. Groudon. Now, we're trying to get into the chase cards where sometimes these chases are actually illustration rares. And this is the interesting thing that I found, is that a lot of them kind of have that trend where the population for the 10 is lower than the 9. And the more drastic that is, it seems to me like, the better the premium. It seems to me like there are 1,000 more 9s than 10s, and so there is a huge market difference of, what, like $230 between those two grades, which, I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, grading can be very subjective sometimes. Like, even tag, I've seen get mistakes. Like, people have sent in, they've regraded with tag and they've gotten different scores. I haven't tried Beckett. I might try Beckett for the pristines. But anyway, I think Groudon is a good chase for Paradox Rift. That's why I actually kind of believe in the set as a whole. I don't think it's the best set. I think if you have a lot of Paradox Rift right now and you're kind of sitting on it, I would just keep sitting on it. I think it's going to age pretty well. Would I buy into it? I think there's other things that you could buy that are better for $200 personally, but I don't think it's bad. But also, this Ninetails, I think is still undervalued. Like, it seems incredibly hard to grade. You have like a 30%, gem rate. Actually, not like less than that, right? Because I'm just doing the calculations based on 10 and 9. So less than 30% gem rate. That's pretty hard to gem. And I think Ninetales is a pretty popular Pokemon, so I could see this going up over time. This is interesting to me. I would actually be buying the ETB or PC ETB of Obsidian Flames instead of the booster box. I think a good promo is huge. Charmander is hard to grade in both the normal promo and the Pokemon Center promo. And you're almost at the price of a booster box. I don't know. I think a good promo can change that. Latios, this one is really crazy. 4,000 more 9s. And while that's, almost, it's like around a 50% gem rate, you might not think that's super crazy. I think Latios is one of the most popular Pokemon. Latios, Lovebirds, obviously really iconic. Latias has an SAR, and the Latios goes perfectly with that card. Now I do wish they were both SIRs, and I kind of wish Latios was a little bit further, you know, or sorry, a little closer. I mean, not further. Um, it kind of looks like he's just social distancing from Latios, but you know, he still looks cool here. So as a Latios fan, I enjoy this set. I recently sold my Latios IR because, you know, it was not going to get a 10. So I might buy a 10 later on, but we'll see. We'll see what my Latios comes back as first. From grading. Ghastly. Now, I let go of this recently, but I still think it has potential. Not the best, you know, grading. And I actually think this is going to climb up for, you know, Temporal Forces chases over the Raging Bolt. In my opinion, I could see the Ghastly PSA 10, you know, becoming the chase card and then making raw copies of the Ghastly much more expensive in general. Yeah, and I think sometimes illustration rares can actually be harder to pull than special illustration rares, because yes, you get a higher chance of getting illustration rare, but if they have enough IRs within the set, your chance of getting, you know, any specific IR can be lessened. So I believe there's around 22 illustration rares in Temporal Forces, right? And so your chance of pulling any specific illustration rare, specifically the Ghastly, which is the most popular one, the one where Gengar's doing something a little crazy, and not gonna lie, it's a pretty fun card. You have Haunter there, you have Gengar, you have Ghastly. Like, they're a very iconic, you know, line for sure. And they're doing some goofy stuff in here. I like the colors as well. I think the PSA 10 price is actually going to keep going up, and I think Temporal Forces is going to be known as a Ghastly set. Like, yes, you have the 3 dogs in future form, or past form, sorry, which is decent. It's cool. But I actually think, you know, the Sawsbuck and the Deerling are going to become, you know, pretty cool chases as well. The Litten card is really underrated in my opinion. I love all the Litten, like, Litten's plushies and stuff in the background, very cute. But yeah, I think Ghastly is going to be a great card, and I think Temporal Forces is actually a buy. If you can find it for 200, I think it's going to be not a bad box. That could see some really good growth. I think Ghastly is a really popular Pokemon. I think people are kind of still sleeping on this a little bit. Next we have stuff from Paldea Evolved, and I'm kind of surprised that people don't realize why Paldea Evolved is such a popular set. People love ripping it, first up, like, because it has the most amount of IRs and SIRs. The set is super deep, as I've been pointing out. I've been yapping about this every time. You have all 3 starters from Paldea in Paldea Evolved, and these are some of the best starters we've gotten in a while. So not only do you have all of their lines, SIRs and IRs, right, sets of 3, you also have Raichu, extremely popular, extremely hard to grade. Looks like a 30% gem rate, less than 30%. That's gonna be hard. Sleeping Raichu, that's cute. That's cute, you know. Tyranitar is a very popular Pokemon. Again, less than 33% gem rate. I think this one is gonna keep its premium and gonna keep going up over time. Not the best Tyranitar in general, but I like the pose he's doing. It's pretty menacing. And of course, a Shinji Kanda Magikarp with I want to say, like, what, around less than 30% again, maybe 20. Yeah, around 20% gem rate. Pretty bad, all things considered. I think PSA 9s are actually gonna start, like, people are gonna keep grading these Magikarps, because again, the Magikarp is somewhat harder to pull, as you have a ton of illustration rares in Paldea Evolved. You know, there are 15 SIRs and 15 IRs, which is an insane amount. And yeah, you have a 1 in 15 chance to actually pull the Magikarp. So that in itself is pretty hard. Plus you have all the SIRs, 3 of which are starter Pokemon that are going to be very popular in the future in my eyes. And then you have some really solid IRs like Raichu, Tyranitar, and Magikarp. And I think having illustration rares as your chase card is actually not a problem. Yes, I prefer SIRs. I think anyone else does. The texture is very nice on an SIR. But I understand why they have the illustration rare slot. Low key, I think if this was a special illustration rare, it would be even more expensive. And do I think this is going to go down? Yes. But I don't think it's going to go down anywhere near where it was months ago. People did not care about this card months ago, and now that they kind of have known about it and now it's on everyone's mind, people are going to hold up the price somewhat. They're going to see this current price, they're going to see it go down like $400, $500 maybe, and then they'll be like, oh, it's on a discount. I'm gonna buy in, and so there's always gonna be a floor for cards like these, you know. So I think Paldea Evolved is still a buy, in my opinion. If you can get those vending machine restocks, I still have not I have not hit a single vending machine restock. The only thing I'm getting is like stale packs of Stellar Crown that no one wants, and I'm buying them to rip. Like, I don't get me wrong, I enjoy ripping stuff. But anyway, what do you guys think of illustration rares as chase cards? Do you think SIRs are better because of the, you know, texture and, you know, maybe the more rare almost feeling that they have, or do you think illustration rares are going to hold up just fine as chase cards in the future? Is this a speculative bubble that, you know, people are just kind of on illustration rares in the future, or will this really stay that popular? I think they will. I think illustration rares that, you know, have kind of a story behind them and look interesting, like the Magikarp. I mean, there's like a Gyarados back there. The background is very beautiful and detailed. I have a Japanese version of it. You know, I love it. I see the hype, but I still think that we could see a price drop on this. But in any case, yeah, definitely buy into some of these older sets like Obsidian, like Temporal, like Paldea. And again, I've told you my preferred products for those. It doesn't always mean the booster box. Sometimes there's better things for the current price. You know, ETBs. You get a sick promo, especially for Paldea Evolved and Obsidian Flames. But anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe.